show us much more than music. It's ministry.
So I didn't know Crossmovement tried to sign you at one point. I know you guys had talked about a tour situation.
Let me phrase this correctly.
Yeah.
At that time, I had only signed a 3-album deal with my label. So essentially what had happened, my deal was about to be up. And ironically, at the same time, Wu Tang Records, somebody from Wu Tang Records
You're kidding me.
I'm not making this up. A guy from Wu Tang Records that worked with Wu Tang Records was like, yo, is KJ free?
Wow.
At the same time. Now, I can't say Crossmovement like slid a contract on my desk. They was just like, hey, man, so like, what's up? It was like that.
Yeah.
I had already made up my mind what I was going to do. But it was enough that it was like.
What would a KJ-52 on Crossmovement have even. I can't imagine that, bro. At that point.
But you know what?
So is you Flame,
I don't think,
the truth, JR?
I don't think you give enough credit to the way people think. I don't think Flame was on there yet, to be honest with you.
He wasn't on there.
I don't think he was on there by this time.
So him and JR wasn't on there yet.
No, I think at this time it was just them. And it never went farther than just a casual conversation. But I always had great relationships with those guys.
Yeah, I know
that was the thing.
Yeah.
And it was never. I think like anybody does over time, you start to understand. Here's what I think of somebody artistically. Here's what I think about somebody financially.
Right.
And here's what I think about somebody ministerially.
Yeah.
And sometimes the three are completely separate things.
That's true.
So, like in the Wu-Tang case, that was basically a guy worked for the guy that worked there. He was a Christian. And the other guy was like a kind of coming around type Christian.
Yeah.
And it was just like, okay, KJ sold this many records. Cool.
Let's do it.
But it never progressed past that. You know what I mean? So let me just preface that.
KJ on Wu-Tang would have been awesome.
That would have been insane.
With some RZA beats? With some RZA beats, though? If you'd have told me that, I'd threw on a bunch of RZA beats for you.
No, you know what? RZA his beats would have never worked for me. He's too dark. I'm like boom bap and like De La Soul and stuff like that. I you know what? Over time, I've realized my voice sits sort of at this spot.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it always works with everything else. I know the frequency of my tone. I've never translated well to Southern tracks because it's very low end heavy.
Yeah.
And a high pitched tenor voice doesn't work on a sub frequency.
Yeah.
And we forget, why does Southern music work so well? Because the drawl is so big.
The drawl is big.
It fills the beat. And you take a guy like me who tends to sound higher. You know what I mean? Here I am 15 years later, and I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? I haven't figured it out, but rap changes constantly. So I'm in a weird spot.
What's your favorite time in music? Musically.
My favorite time?
Like musically, not like just the career, but just like in the 15 years you've been doing this full time. What was
my
your
favorite time?
Favorite musical time in Christian rap?
My favorite musical time in Christian rap? I mean, I can only be nostalgic and say the time when I was a young believer, like when I came to Christ, only because it just affected me so much. Like,
right?
I mean, I got saved in 90. I found out about Christian rap about 90, 91. That was all I listened to.
You messing with like SFC and all that back then.
I saw SFC and PID when I was a senior in high school. Wow. I drove 3.5 hours to go see them and 3.5 hours back to sit in a room with 70 kids. It was the best day of my life.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I shook Soup's hand when I was a teenager, and he had really long fingernails. I remember that for some reason. I told him that actually one time. You know what I mean? Like, I remember hearing a guy named Chex Rios play me the Crossmovement demo over the phone. He was from here in New York. I remember coming to New York in 94 or 95 and rapping in the Bronx.
So it was Rap Fest.
No, this is pre-Rap Fest.
Before Rap Fest.
This is pre-Rap Fest. This is just me on the street. I knew a guy that knew a guy that knew a guy. Like,
that was probably like the biggest thing ever for you.
I was also scared to death.
I bet.
It was me and my dad.
You in the South Bronx?
In the South Bronx. It was pretty crazy.
94?
94, 95.
You thought Fat Joe was coming out to get you, right?
Nah, you know what? Honestly, I always kind of never feared scary situations.
Yeah.
But I think I at the same token was like, you know what? I knew the gospel was just bigger than whatever my fears were.
Wow.
And and I'd come up to see family. That's really all I came up to do. And I just started out. But God's faithful, man. He's really faithful.
That's crazy.
He provides.
On the way